This is the Salerno podcast, episode 20. On today's episode, we have special guest Carly Twehous talking about a lot of Marvel stories, some Uncharted stories, a lot of Tom Holland stories, and most importantly, the review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So sit back and relax because the Salerno podcast starts right now. Hey everybody, welcome to the Salerno podcast, episode 20 on this Monday, May 29th, 2017. I'm your host, Vince Salerno. I'm joined by my special guest, fellow Marvel fan and film fanatic, Carly Twehous.
Hi there.
Hi Carly, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here.
Cool. Want to tell people about yourself?
Sure. I'm a senior at JP Catholic. I'm from Nebraska, also, originally.
Go Huskers.
Oh, yes. I'm here and about to graduate at the end of this quarter and hopefully moving up to LA to get some writing job and see what happens with that.
Very cool. Once again, glad to have you on the show talking about movies and Marvel and Tom Holland. Before we get into our top 5, we have a couple of sad stories to get out of the way. First off, we got word that Zack Snyder had to drop out of directing post-production of Justice League because of the passing of his daughter, which I guess actually happened in March. We're just getting word of it now. And Joss Whedon has come in, director of The Avengers, has come in to take over for at least a couple weeks until Zack Snyder feels comfortable coming back. And his family has been taken care of. It seems like he believes his family is where he's needed most. And, got to give props for the guy for deciding what's right. I mean, a movie's a movie. I saw people online that were like, well, now the movie's going to suck. Like, it's doomed now because of this. And I was like, you're a moron. Come on. The movie is the least important thing right now. And it's just...
Joss Whedon has proven himself over and over again as a storyteller.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's like if you don't trust him as a storyteller because of like Avengers Age of Ultron, then, well, to be quite honest, that was a lot of Marvel higher ups that he was answering to for that movie. And he's not going to be rewriting a script or anything like that. It's all in post-production, isn't that right?
Yeah.
So he's not... We're trusting his expertise as a storyteller here. Not so much his, directing abilities.
Directing abilities, yeah. And I think he's going to sort of guide what Zack Snyder has already sought out to do with the movie. I don't think he's going to rewrite anything or change anything, like you said. I think the most important thing to discuss here is just, it's very tragic that the death of Snyder's daughter, who I guess committed suicide, which is very unfortunate because last week we had Chris Cornell pass away from suicide. So it's just, like I said before, let's try really hard to comfort those who are struggling with depression, who believe that suicide is the answer, and encourage them that that is not the answer. Also, we got word the same day that the whole Manchester situation with the concert, Ariana Grande concert. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but a lot of people were injured, a lot of people were killed. It was recently confirmed that it was a ISIS attack, which is just terrible and tragic, and many innocent lives were lost that day. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the families and the people who lost friends, family members that day. Can't imagine what you're going through. Do you want to comment on that? Or
22 is what I heard.
22 people dead?
Yep.
Yeah, it's too bad.
I think Ariana Grande also handled that very well.
She did, yeah.
So props to her for being strong in such a difficult situation.
Yeah. And I don't know why some people are interpreting it as like what caused the attack or why it happened. Or it's like Manchester's a city where things like this happen. It's like that's...
Yeah, she has absolutely no part in any of the attacking. And she handled it well.
She did, yeah.
So...
I agree.
Kudos.
And then, one last sad thing we have to get out of the way is the passing of a legendary actor, Roger Moore, who hopefully most of you know him as one of the 6 actors to play James Bond. Some of his films include Moonraker, Octopussy, as strange as that title is, it's one of his films. A View to Kill, or View to Kill, whichever one it is. I can't remember the rest of his Bond films. Oh, Moonraker, the cheesiest one of them all, where he goes to space. But I never. I liked Roger Moore's Bond films, but I never really got into them the way I've gotten into Daniel Craig and Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah.
Those are kind of my 2 favorite Bonds. But Roger Moore definitely paved the way for a lot of great Bond stories, and his definitely stand out as his era stands out as one of the weirdest, but definitely one we can just look back and laugh at. And he was just generally a great actor. He just seemed like he really embraced the goofiness and the fun of the role, and I mean,
those are the ones that attracted me to the James Bond films, just because I was a kid, and so you like the goofy, stupid things, and he does go to space. That's brilliant.
He goes to space.
It's absolutely ridiculous, but it's also incredibly entertaining to a 12-year-old.
Yeah. I mean, as sad as it is, you can't really be too sad, because he lived to be 89 years old. He lived a pretty full life. So as sad as it is, you got to be happy that a guy like him was able to live as old as he is, where we live in a society where, most people are dying around age 40 or age 70 or even 50. It's kind of comforting to know that there are still people out there who can who pass at such an old age, and he definitely lived a full life, I think. So let's just really quick take a couple moments of silence for the Snyder family, for the victims of the Manchester situation, and of course Roger Moore. So keep all those people, the families of Snyder and Roger Moore, and the people suffering from Manchester, keep them all in your thoughts and prayers. All right, now after all that depressing stuff, let's get on to our top 5, starting with number 1. Looks like Tom Hardy is going to play Venom in the non-Spider-Man Sony spin-off, which will be directed by Rupert Fletcher, I believe his name is. He was the director of Zombieland, so if you like Zombieland, that's a plus. I'm divided with this, because on one side, it's Tom Hardy playing Venom, and that in itself is just as cool as John Berthal playing the Punisher.
Yeah.
I think it's the same level of yes, that's perfect casting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm nervous about Sony creating their own cinematic universe, their own Spider-Man-less cinematic universe.
How many Spider-Man cinematic universes are we going to have?
Yeah.
And will they cross over?
Exactly. And I think you need to have Spider-Man, you need to have it connect to the MCU. They made this deal to have Spider-Man in the MCU for a reason, and now it seems like with them making these spin-offs, and I'm just hearing word that we're getting a Black Cat and Silver Sable
I heard about that.
movie. I don't know how you can successfully do those and get the attention of people without Spider-Man, or setting it in the MCU at least.
Especially a Venom story, that's the whole point of the Venom comic books or the Venom storylines in the Spider-Man comic books is he is such a dichotomy to what Peter Parker represents, and he's just this. It's almost an addicting thing, he counteracts what Peter Parker is supposed to represent, and it's hard to do that without Peter Parker, and if it's supposed to be some sort of spin-off without Spider-Man, it's going to be weird.
Yeah.
And is Tom Hardy playing a character from the comics, or is he just Venom?
I don't know. I don't know if he's supposed to be Eddie Brock, which
exactly.
That'd be a little weird,
because he'd be a little bit old for Eddie Brock.
Yeah.
Especially if Tom Holland is still the Spider-Man that Sony thinks is Spider-Man.
It seems because even I hear rumblings about the deal only lasting up to Homecoming 2.
Okay.
Which means that it'll expire then, but that doesn't mean they can't
Are they going to call it Homecoming 2?
I don't think they're going to call it, but that's just there's already Spider-Man 2. For now, it's just Homecoming 2.
Okay.
But I don't know if they're going to renew their contract with Marvel, Sony, if they're going to
Yeah.
renew that, or if they're going to just go their own way with Spider-Man, or if Marvel even wants to renegotiate. I'm sure they will.
Because Tom Holland's going to be in Infinity War.
He's going to be in Infinity Wars Part 1 and 2.
Yeah, so...
And, yeah, they're already confirmed to be working on the next Spider-Man spin-off, yeah. So, I don't know what's going to happen with that. I think they'd be foolish to not renegotiate, because they were already going forward with a cinematic universe spin-off plan, and it just fell flat on its face after Spider-Man 2, but that was kind of like...
And
that was kind of like a fan-forstic, yeah. Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not supposed to talk about that.
Yeah, but on the plus side, you have Tom Hardy playing Venom. That in itself gets me excited, because Tom Hardy doesn't just do any movie. Yeah. And the fact that he wants to be in a superhero film again. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that. Again, shows that either one, he is making decisions about career-wise as an actor. He wants to get into the superhero niche that is making a lot of money and getting him a lot of publicity, or there's actually a good story and a good script behind this that he wants to get behind.
Hopefully some combination of both.
Hopefully some combination of both, yeah. I mean, you'd hope that if it has Tom Hardy in it, he's there because he wants to play a compelling character and tell a compelling story with Venom. So I'm a little skeptical of it, but
we'll see.
We'll see, yeah. All right, on to our next story, number 2. We've heard a lot about the upcoming Uncharted movie, which, being a fan of the video games, I'm really excited for. But now we're getting official word that Tom Holland has been cast to play Nathan Drake in what will be a prequel to the video game series, showing his relationship with his mentor from the video games, Victor Sullivan, taking parts of the Uncharted 3 game where we saw flashbacks of Nathan Drake's childhood and him paving the way to become Nathan Drake we know in the video games. I know you're not we've already said you don't know these games. Being a fan of the games, I'm not super excited because, like I said, I think the fans and myself included we wanted actual Nathan Drake. Yeah. We wanted he's 30, 40 years old in the games. We wanted that Nathan Drake. We didn't want let's take this section from the third movie and let's just spin that off. Yeah. And I get it, maybe Tom Holland is a guy that you want to maybe keep around for a while and have him age up to be that age and then adapt those 4 games that they've done. Or maybe they won't, maybe not adapt the 4 games, just do your own thing, that's fine. But still, it just puts, I don't like it. I really was set on a Nathan Drake that we've seen in the games, and I'm also hearing that we're getting a rewrite of this movie, which has gone through several rewrites, which worries me because we had a great script, from what I heard, come in from, oh gosh, I forgot the writer's name. But hearing that the script's being rewritten worries me too, because I don't want it to be sort of dumbed down to this fun kids adventure movie. I want it to feel because the games were kind of like Indiana Jones, but really grittier.
Yeah, so I'm assuming Nathan Drake has some sort of tragic backstory, which you might get to see in its evolution, which might be interesting, but I would typically agree with you that it's more interesting to see the character where he's at now, with the tragic backstory in the past.
Yeah, and I haven't played the game in years, but I think the third game, he was an orphan, and then he stole something from his future mentor, Victor Sullivan, and then he sort of took him on, and they started their own little treasure hunting thing. So, I'll words. I will be optimistic about this. I mean, it's something different. I will give it that. It's not what I expected, but it's not a terrible idea. I don't cringe at this idea. So, and Tom Holland is obviously a phenomenal actor. He's obviously playing Spider-Man. He's
very popular at the moment.
Very popular at the moment. He's quickly risen to fame as Spider-Man and is already getting a bunch of other roles because of that, and just the fact that he's just a committed and great actor.
Very
so, yeah, that too. Depending on who you are. So we'll see. I was hoping for something more on the lines of the actual games, but I got to see a trailer first.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a terrible idea.
Yeah.
All right. Number 3. We've got confirmation that the Universal Studios Monsters Cinematic Universe thing has got the official title of the Dark Universe, which will include Tom Cruise from The Mummy, Sophia Boutella as the Mummy from The Mummy, Russell Crowe as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Johnny Depp playing the Invisible Man, and Javier Bardem playing Frankenstein's monster.
So they just took everything in the public domain and said, yes, that's going to be our Marvel universe.
Well, actually, all those films were Universal monster movies. So, they were in the public domain, but they're, like, pulling from that specific lore, which is kind of cool.
Was The Mummy any good? Does that come out?
It hasn't come out yet. It comes out.
The trailer looks really awesome.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I have a lot of confidence in this because the Mummy looks actually really good.
The trailer, it looks epic. Mm-hmm. Like for a horror movie and an action movie, it looks fun.
Yeah, and I was a little skeptical about. I heard early rumblings about this whole thing, like, we want to do an action horror franchise. Like, that does not sound
that sounds
great.
Very strange.
Like, if you're going to do something along the lines of, like, Dracula Untold, which was not great from what I heard, or
I saw it. It was, like, enjoyable in the moment, but then you sit down and reflect, and it's like, that was actually kind of bad.
Yeah, but, I mean, this looks genuinely scary, genuinely fun, and action-packed, and it really looks like...
They've got some great actors in there.
They've got some great actors, too, like Tom Cruise and Sophia Boutella, Russell Crowe, Jake Johnson from New Girl, and Drinking Buddies. I love that actor. He doesn't get enough credit. Jurassic World, he was in Jurassic World.
Oh, yeah.
He was great in that. And the next film in that series will be The Bride of Frankenstein, which was directed by Bill Condon, the guy who did Beauty and the Beast, which works, I guess. I mean, Bill Condon's a great director. He's not one of my favorites, but he did a fantastic job, I think, with Beauty and the Beast. And I don't know if you agree or not, but have you seen Beauty and the Beast?
I enjoyed Beauty and the Beast. I wasn't a huge fan of the original.
Oh, yeah?
It was just one of those princess... I'm not a princess fan.
Gotcha. That's okay.
But I enjoyed it for what it was, and it was very well shot and well done.
Yeah. Growing up in a house with 2 sisters, I learned to enjoy princess movies.
I was the sister growing up with a brother who loved action movies. So
there you go.
There you go.
One of the siblings has to have the domain.
Exactly. He won the remote.
Yeah. But, great for Bill Condon coming out the success of Beauty and the Beast, and I don't know who they'd get to play the Bride of Frankenstein, or now that they're taking a sort of modern approach to this whole thing, I don't know how they would even approach that story.
Just go the Monsters route. Like,
the Monsters.
That's the only way to go.
There have been jokes, actually, that like this whole thing is building up to...
Monsters.
The Monsters, yeah.
That'd
a
be
Monsters
great.
reboot. The Monsters.
I loved that show as a kid.
Yeah. I always got them confused with Addams Family.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, they were both really great.
Brilliant.
So, I guess nothing but really positive things to say about this. And I think it's kind of funny that they're releasing this news now and kind of capitalizing off Javier Bardem and Johnny Depp being in Pirates of the
Pirates, which
Caribbean.
is going to be some sort of weird ghost thing or something.
I'm excited for it.
I'm really excited.
Go Sharks,
Yeah.
I think I don't have anything negative to say about this until The Mummy comes out and we see how good or bad of a movie it is. We can't really tell what direction this franchise will take, but I'm all for cinematic universes if they can learn to do them right, and it seems like so far at least The Mummy is on the way to making this dark universe one to be reckoned with.
Yeah. I applaud Universal for trying to play the superhero game with monsters. It's a great idea.
Yeah, it really is. Only time will tell if it will actually be a good idea.
Yeah.
All right, number 4. Vanity Fair has released a ton of new images and story details and stuff for Star Wars: The Last Jedi in honor of the 40th anniversary. Really quick, happy 40th anniversary to Star Wars. We're recording this on the 40th anniversary. I would have had a 40th anniversary episode, but I rescheduled this with Carly, so
Yeah,
we'll postpone that till later. But I still love Star Wars. Happy 40th. Anyways, yeah, this issue just came out of nowhere, and I remember just...
Was anybody expecting like this photo shoot or anything? Because normally you hear rumblings.
Yeah, no, it just kind of dropped. I mean, I figured we'd get something big to come out for the week of the 40th anniversary. I just didn't know what, like, it'd actually be like another trailer or something like this, or like a magazine photo shoot. But then this comes out, and then we get a cover of Carrie Fisher as Leia, which unfortunately this will be her last movie as Princess Leia since she passed away in December. We get a cover of Luke Skywalker with Rey, cover with Finn, Poe Dameron, BB-8, and the new character named Rose. And the last cover was of Kylo Ren, Captain Phasma, with her mask off.
And finally.
General Hux. Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. Let's start off with Phasma. She didn't do much in Episode 7. I think
that was universal disappointment.
Disappointment.
Especially with that actress in her fame in Game of Thrones.
And they built her up to be such a badass character. Like, her armor was forged out of a Naboo starship. She was the female leader of the stormtroopers of the First Order.
It sounds so cool. And she had this there for like 5 minutes.
When she was in the movie, she did great because she had this like presence.
She did have a presence,
like, holy shit! I don't want to mess with her.
Yeah, definitely not. It's very much the actress too. So kudos to her.
But. Absolutely. But I seeing that she gets like a little spear thing. She has her mask off. I feel like we're going to get a lot more of her. Maybe some compelling backstory tidbits. I'm not sure, but this tells me we're going to get a lot more than what we got in Episode 7, which is great. Some of the story details we got about this movie was that we got confirmation that Luke is kind of going through a Jedi who was lost but found type journey with training Rey. He's going to start the movie kind of like, no, I'm gone because I don't want to screw anything up again. The Jedi Order failed, so time for the Jedi to end. Thanks for coming. Here's $5. Get yourself a slushie at 7-Eleven and go home. Is how I'd interpret that. But that's kind of cool because I never really occurred to me to think about Luke being a lost soul and sort of almost kind of losing the faith in a way.
That's an awesome storyline. Like, that's an awesome way to take that. And, I mean, obviously he's going to hear about Han Solo's death, too. And so that's probably going to be...
I wonder if he's already even, like, felt
or sensed it. Yeah. So that'd be a whole nother thing.
To hear... I believe in Episode 5 it was... He actually sensed Han in danger, so I think that's, like, kind of his thing, which... So leads me to a complaint, like, okay, if he actually sensed that, why didn't he come save Han Solo when his dumbass son killed him?
Completely a lost soul.
Yeah, exactly.
If Luke Skywalker has given up hope, then, I mean, he's the new hope.
He is, exactly.
Like, what do we do?
He is the new hope. What are we going to do now?
Yeah.
So it's up to Rey. It seems like that's her whole struggle to really convince Luke that, you're needed and the galaxy is going to be in peril if you don't do something.
I'm really intrigued. I've read a couple theories online about the poster that was released with the trailer a while ago.
That was a great poster.
It was a great poster, and it sets Rey up as the complete balance between the light side and the dark side, which is incredibly fascinating to me. I mean, if you get into the philosophy of Star Trek, Star Wars. Oh my goodness, wrong universe. But that is something that I hope they kind of explore in Episode 8.
I'm curious to see where Rey's allegiances will fall, if she will be tempted by the dark side, and if she'll even flirt with the idea of the dark side. That would be interesting. Because never really, well, I guess it has been done before, but if she actually goes full on dark side, then the last movie is like
a redemption arc.
We have to redeem her now.
See, that would be fun. That would be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Or some people, I believe that Episode 10, 11, 12 is going to happen. I have nothing to prove that. I just believe it's going to happen. But I think it'd be interesting if Episode 9 ends with her being on the dark side, and then we open maybe 5 years later, both in film-wise and in real time. We wait 5 years for the new trilogy, and we have a redemption story for her.
That would be fun.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome. But,
yeah,
we'll see. Whatever they
We'll
do,
see.
I'll be happy with. I'm not
Okay,
like
I'm blanking. Who's directing episode 9?
Ryan Johnson, who did...
Ron Howard's doing this one. Okay, so Ryan Johnson is doing the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Wait, Ron Howard? What?
Isn't Ron Howard doing 8?
No, this is 8. Ryan Johnson's doing 8.
Who's doing 9?
9 is Colin Trevorrow.
Oh, okay.
Jurassic World,
Yep, okay.
That's it. That'd be interesting. Ron Howard directing Star Wars.
I don't know. I always get Ron Howard and Ryan Johnson mixed up.
They are somewhat similar names. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Johnson, who directed Looper. I don't know if you've seen that, but that's
I
just
love Looper.
an incredible science fiction movie. And
that is so underappreciated.
It is,
an amazing science fiction story.
Hopefully,
and the script is just phenomenal.
Hopefully his directing abilities and he gets more scripts coming his way after this, because I'm sure he's gonna kill it. It seems like he's really taking some big risks. Like one of them is there's this new casino planet called Canto Bight in The Last Jedi, where all these like rich, snobby, aristocratic people hang out, and it's just like some of the images here are just like really weird, gnarly looking aliens. I mean, this
looks classic Star Wars. There you go.
Really
fun.
weird, but I'm totally into it.
Oh yeah.
And I believe this is going to play into Finn and Poe's storyline, which they're sort of on their own little resistance mission. We don't know much about it, but Poe and Finn is recovered. He is now actually a big deal, which is funny because he's like, that was kind of his thing. Like, I'm a big deal in the resistance. Like now he's actually a big deal.
Yeah.
People are like praising him for the things he did, and Oscar Isaac's character Poe Dameron's joining him on this mission with a new jacket. I might add.
And hopefully BB-8.
And BB-8. BB-8's going to be in there for sure. And then there's a new character named Rose, who is played by a Asian Japanese actress. One of the two? I don't know. But she's said to be a maintenance worker who doesn't really want to get into the fight, but is just kind of thrusted into the adventure, kind of with most Star Wars characters, are just kind of forced into things by coincidence. But I feel like she'll probably be a very prominent character going forward in this new trilogy and in just the Star Wars lore in general.
Yeah.
There's hints that she might be the love interest for Finn, which could be interesting because I thought Rey would be a love interest for Finn. There's rumors about her.
As long as there's no more incest, we've gotten over that.
Yeah, let's please, no more incest.
Yeah.
There's rumors of Rey and Poe Dameron hooking up, possibly.
Or if you believe the fan fiction sites, it's Poe Dameron and Finn.
Yeah.
So, but
I'd rather not read into that, but
I wouldn't either.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't let that image of him putting his hand on his shoulder. Don't read into that too much.
Casual hand. It's
platonic. It's platonic. It's okay. So, a couple last things about this one. We got a first look at Laura Dern as a vice admiral in Star Wars. She looks kind of like Effie Trinket from the Hunger Games, which is kind of cool. She
definitely does look like Effie Trinket.
I'm digging the pink, purplish hair.
She looks like she has a cabbage on her head. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, she kind of does. Cabbage head. And then we got Benicio del Toro, who is... his character has been under wraps for a really long time. Mm-hmm. He's rumored to be playing just kind of a mysterious character. You don't know where his allegiances lie. You don't know what his deal is. The filmmakers have said his nickname is DJ.
That's interesting.
Which is not
Maybe he's on the casino planet.
He's on the casino planet, yeah. Which is not his actual name, I'm hearing, but that's in order to avoid spoilers and leaks. They're referring to him as DJ. So I believe he might have some major. They
got that actor.
Benicio del Toro's a fantastic actor, so he's probably going to have some major connections to some characters, or maybe he is a
parent?
Maybe he's a parent, Rey's father or something.
That might be an interesting route, because they definitely said that her parents were not in episode 7.
Yeah.
So they could be in episode 8.
Yeah. So also, rumor has it that he's playing Ezra from Rebels, which would be interesting.
Wow. Okay, so that might be really fun.
That might be really fun.
I binge watched Rebels recently, so I'm totally for that.
I gotta get caught up. I watch all the spoiler stuff, so I know what's happening, but I really need to watch the show. So yeah, all great Star Wars speculation stuff. As you guys know, I'm a diehard Star Wars fan, so I'm sure you are too. Yes. So we take pleasure in speculating about Star Wars. Of course. We could probably talk about it all day, but we got to move on to our fifth and final top 5 story. We finally got the last trailer for Spider-Man: Homecoming, and it's pretty cool. I like it. I actually think this is my favorite trailer.
Yeah, I would totally agree.
I mean, the poster sucks, but...
yeah, the poster's kind of lame.
The poster
it looks like they just had to throw Iron Man in there somewhere.
Yeah,
like, and they're
twice.
Kind of, twice. Yeah, especially, the Vulture poster. It's just, he's kind of, flying out the side. It's like, okay.
Yeah. Hey there, Vulture. It almost looks like they're teaming up, Spider-Man and friends.
Yeah. And that's what Robert Downey Jr. posted on his page. He said... Or Iron Man, or your friendly neighborhood Iron Man.
Nice.
And so.
Yeah, I didn't like the poster. I think it's.
The first one was better. The first.
Yeah, the first
couple
posters.
That they had.
Yeah. This one is just like a Photoshop nightmare.
I
think the only posters that work with that, all the heads or the characters in there is the Star Wars saga. That's the only
thing. Those are epic posters, though.
Yeah, and you have to kind of get all the characters in there because it sort of encompasses the whole story in a way.
Yeah.
So I understand that. I just can't get behind this poster. It's just a Photoshop nightmare. But the trailer was really good. I think the second one they released a couple months ago I wasn't too impressed because. There was the little, I want the suit back, but I'm not filling with the suit. Well, then you shouldn't have the suit. I felt like that was kind of revealing too much in terms of the story. I would have rather have seen that moment in the theater and have that be kind of a reveal, he gets the suit taken away. That's interesting. In this trailer, they sort of backtrack from that. They show that same scene, or at least in the international version, I believe, but it's they just ended I thought you were going to be better than me. I guess not. And it's just showing his disappointment in him, not I'm going to take away the suit. So I think they did a good job at showing us new stuff, but not showing us too much.
Yeah.
And I can't even think about what stood out because it was just everything was just.
Yeah.
I just remember just having a lot of fun watching it. I just wanted to watch it over and over and over.
Yeah, I agree.
It was a really fun trailer, and we're kind of talking a lot about Tom Holland. 3 stories are about Tom Holland, kind of.
He's pretty popular.
He is pretty popular, and I'm excited for this movie. I was afraid of having Spider-Man fatigue because we've had 3 Sam Raimi films, we've had 2 Mark Webb films, and we had the Civil War. It's I don't know.
How many times can you kill?
How many times can you kill? Yeah. I like this new incarnation of Spider-Man, but at the same time, I am not going to be on board for another reboot. It's a shame because Spider-Man was one of my favorite characters growing up as a kid. I love Spider-Man, and it hurts me to even think about being, having Spider-Man fatigue.
Yeah.
And I think this movie is going to make a lot of fans happy and going to pull back on some of those, classic Spider-Man things like the theme song and the little spider tracer, which, if you watch the Spider-Man cartoon.
The old one, yeah.
I love that.
Oh, yeah.
And, they've added some new elements there's a Iron Man suit element to Spider-Man suit, which I'm not sure how I feel about that necessarily. I don't think I needed that, but...
Yeah.
It's whatever.
I'm kind of intrigued as Tony Stark as a father figure to Peter Parker. That's intriguing to me, just because Tony Stark would be the world's worst father.
Yeah.
And
he's doing
obviously
a pretty good
Peter
job, I guess.
doesn't have much of a father figure in his life if Uncle Ben is already dead, as we saw in Civil War. Thank God we don't have to watch him die again.
Yeah, and I think that's a much better approach than
I do too.
Redoing the origin and Uncle Ben died.
It's everybody knows the Spider-Man origin story. We've seen it at least 4 different times in the past 10 years.
We can move on.
We can move on. We understand that Uncle Ben dies.
Yeah, but it's funny you mentioned Tony Stark and the father figure thing, because one thing that Marvel has really brought our attention to is that Tony Stark has really evolved since the first Iron Man. He is actually a lot more mature and a lot more thoughtful
Yeah.
of his actions and how he guides others and how he leads others. So
especially seen in Civil War.
Especially seen in Civil War. Yeah, exactly. Basically Iron Man and Captain America's ideals somewhat reversed in a way.
Yeah.
You'd think that they would sort of think, Captain America would normally think about signing the Accords
and trying to find peace, but
yeah, and then Tony would think, oh, we don't need control. But since because of what they've specifically have gone throughout these films, it's like it makes sense to do Civil War and have that show that switch of ideals.
And you see, especially in Civil War, you see Tony Stark's lack of a father figure and how much that affected him when he finds out that Bucky Barnes was the cause of his father's death.
Yeah.
So you have that element in Tony Stark almost grieving his father figure, and then you have him trying to be a father figure to Tom Holland. That's why that would be kind of fascinating.
Right, yeah.
It's because you do see the development of Tony Stark, and then now you see him in a role that you never see him in ever.
Right. It assures me that Tony Stark's not just going to be in there for we got to connect it to the MCU as part of the larger universe. No, he is being a father figure to Peter Parker, and it's a lot more compelling to see than another.
You see both development of Peter Parker and Tony Stark, which is better than just hey, we're going to pay Robert Downey Jr. a ton of money to be in our movie.
Yeah, exactly. And let's talk about Vulture. I love Michael Keaton. He's one of my favorite actors, and to have him in a Marvel movie playing Birdman again.
Yeah, exactly. Birdman again. There you go.
Yeah, and I just laughed my head off when I heard he was cast. But I was like, this is so cool. And
this is destiny.
Yeah, and I know Marvel has bad rep with villains, but I think he's gonna be a good one.
I really, really hope he's going to be, because they should use Michael Keaton.
They should. Yeah, he's a great actor. You should not misuse him like you've misused Ben Kingsley, to say the least.
Yes.
We won't get into that because we'll be here all night.
Oh yeah.
But it seems like Marvel. I mean, we'll talk about it later in our Guardians review. But it seems like Marvel is starting to pay attention and put a little more time into making the villains at least somewhat memorable and meaningful. And I hopefully. The Vulture is a product of that.
Yeah.
Because you see that, he's part of this damage control thing, picking up Chitauri battle scraps and stuff. And then Iron Man or Tony Stark sort of takes that company out from under him and we're going to issue our own damage control, which leads me to believe that they're going to sort of connect to that with the damage control Marvel TV show that they're going to do.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, but that's another story. So, you really understand why the Vulture is doing the things he's doing, and you kind of get behind it because, okay, he's not just evil for the sake of evil. He is mad, and he feels like what he's doing is right, that
he's justified in his anger towards these superheroes, and obviously the superheroes get angry at each other, and they start the Civil War with, so it's like you can see his thought process and his justification of his actions.
Yeah, and I really like to see a movie in the MCU where they directly address the issue that with superheroes there comes supervillains. So maybe too many superheroes is a bad thing.
The idea has been addressed in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
That's right.
But not fully developed, not to my satisfaction.
Yeah,
I would like that.
I would love to see that because with every new superhero, you get new supervillains and new threats. And I'm just thinking, that would be a really compelling storyline for an Avengers movie or something.
And Tony Stark kind of says as much in Age of Ultron, too,
Yeah, exactly.
Again, it hasn't necessarily been explored to the full extent that it could be.
Right. So I guess we can stop talking about this. We'll be here all day about this.
Yeah.
But we love the Spider-Man trailer. We can't wait for the movie. I have no doubt it's going to be great. But there's always that little. It's Sony, and they haven't had the best of luck with films. The emoji movie, Fan4stick. Actually, that was Fox.
Oh, that was Fox. Never mind.
So that was bad rep on Fox.
Okay.
Good job, Sony, for not making Fan4stick.
Yes.
All right, so that was our top 5 random list again. That was Tom Hardy playing Venom, Tom Holland playing Nathan Drake in the Uncharted movie, Universal Studios confirming the Dark Universe cinematic universe, Star Wars The Last Jedi Vanity Fair cover photo shoot, and the final trailer for Spider-Man Homecoming. And now we're on to our topic of the week, which is our review for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Now, if you haven't figured it out already, Carly is a big Marvel fan, comics fan, probably a bigger fan than I. I am really not only, but I am really invested in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Based on conversations I've had with Carly, she knows a lot about comics. She knows a lot about how specific references in movies connect back to comics. So I thought it'd be nice to get her on here to, one, talk about Marvel movie news and TV news and stuff, but also review a movie. And, the most recent one that came out is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which I don't know if I've said yet on my podcast or any of the videos, but I freaking loved it. And, we're going to, as we traditionally do, review it. Let's start out with what we liked about the movie. I have a couple of notes starting out. The one thing that sticks out to me the most is just the story and the characters. Now the characters support the story. So it's not like the first movie where it really is sort of a space opera where they're trying to defeat some, bigger evil than themselves. They have to actually, they don't have to fight this evil, but they feel they choose to.
So that would be the space opera.
This is more about so the first movie they became a family, and now this second movie is about should they continue being a family? Do they even fit as a family? Should they continue on with what they're doing, or should they go their separate ways? Do they even belong together?
It's the teenage years.
So that's
how my friend back home described it, and she said she watched the first one, obviously, and then you see the birth of the family and the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then you definitely see the rough patches, and this is their everyday life. They're arguing on the dinner table, they're bickering, and their humor between each other, which was just absolutely fantastic. Yeah,
that's the genius of James Gunn.
Oh yeah. He's
just a phenomenal director, writer, and Hey. Thanks, Austin.
You guys should put
Sorry, what were we saying? Teenage
years.
Yeah. So,
James Gunn.
James Gunn, yeah. Genius writing from James Gunn. He really understands these characters and really knows how to connect and weave the stories and plot lines and stuff and make time for everybody. And one thing...
completely sorry to interrupt, but I was completely shocked by that. You're expecting a sequel movie, and a sequel movie is typically not so much about the characters, but as the plot.
Yeah.
But this movie had Gamora's storyline with Nebula. You had Star-Lord's with his father. You had Rocket and Yondu, which was not something I saw coming.
I did not see that coming.
Epically brilliant. I loved that moment, especially at the end. Spoilers, but whatever.
Yeah, this is a spoiler review, so turn back.
But with Rocket and Yondu, that whole arc that they had, and you see, obviously, Rocket and Star-Lord arguing early on, but then...
Yeah, everything sort of intersects with each other.
It was...
Rocket and Quill, Rocket and Yondu, Gamora and Star-Lord, Gamora and Nebula, Drax and Mantis,
which was also hilarious and brilliant.
And
Baby Groot, through all of this, is just, everybody's
Baby Groot's just there.
Tiny little brother, basically.
They used him pretty sparingly. I was surprised they didn't overuse him, which was what I was afraid of.
I was kind of as well.
Yeah, but that first opening scene, which was
I was laughing
beautifully
through
choreographed,
all of that.
That was incredible, and it's if that's the only big scene he has, that is totally fine.
I coerced my non-nerdy friends to go to this movie with me when I was back home, and I kept telling them, I was like, there's something in this movie that you're going to really like, and I meant Baby Groot because he's adorable and he's ridiculous, and it's just very entertaining to watch them, and then they get out of it and they're just laughing I love the little twig thing.
The twig.
And I was like, oh good.
His name is Groot.
Exactly.
And he's a tree.
He's a tree. He was a tree in the last movie, but you didn't see the last movie.
Yeah. And one thing I thought of when I saw this, looking back, I was like, Volume 2 could potentially just be the first movie. And then you could say, but watch the prequel, The Guardians of the Galaxy at the beginning or whatever. It's one of those, rare situations where, you can look back at the first movie. It's you could have, released Volume 2 first and then Volume 1, and I would have still been just as entertained.
I think I would agree with that. except for that moment at the end of the first one where they're all like holding hands in a power dance or whatever triumphs and
Power
We Are Groot.
friendship.
Yeah, power of friendship.
Yeah.
The We Are Groot moment in that film was like very unifying for the Guardians of the Galaxy, and so I think that's kind of what definitely solidified them as a family.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Again, like this movie was completely brilliant too.
Right, and we talk about like sequels and how they're not as good as the original. I think, from my experience, my opinion, the reason why sequels aren't as good as the original is because they aren't story-centric. They aren't
they're not
character-centric.
character-centric.
And
They try too hard.
Yeah, and some of the best sequels are, really delve deep
Character-centric.
into those character dynamics and the story and the relationships. The reason why some sequels aren't as good as the original is because they try to go bigger and better and more action, more spectacle, more destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the best sequels, from my experience, the best sequels are the ones that focus on those more intimate moments, like Empire Strikes Back was, in many ways, Guardians 2 mirrors Empire Strikes Back, where the gang is separated, they're on their own little journeys, and you're focusing on Han and Leia's relationship, you're focusing on Luke's journey to becoming a Jedi, and even in his struggle with the dark side and facing Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of others, like Terminator 2,
Terminator
like you just
2,
said, you're struggling with Sarah Connor's...
In adolescence, very much.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So your teenage years, there you go.
Teenage years, Sarah Connor trying to cope with the loss of Kyle Reese and her son, who she's kind of estranged from.
You even have the element of kind of the Yondu character in the Terminator, because, the Terminator was so bad in the first film and was terrifying, and not that Yondu was terrifying, but he definitely had
he was an
antagonist, viewpoint, and then obviously he comes back in this one, and I was so surprised how they opened Yondu's arc in Guardians 2, because, you see him on this planet with a bunch of robot prostitutes, and Sylvester Stallone comes on, and you see that there's this deep sadness in Yondu, which is not something that I expected.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I was like, why is Yondu
and I was like,
so
exactly.
sad?
I was like, what is going on here? And
he's like actually blue.
Exactly, and it was just a really interesting way to introduce Yondu's character to that story, and obviously it arced perfectly with everything that went down, and he's Mary Poppins, y'all.
Mary Poppins, y'all. That was the best quote of the entire movie.
That was the best quote.
Sylvester Stallone was, although he served a small part that will probably be expanded on in the future, he was great. I was trying to keep, it kind of leaked eventually what he was playing, but I kept myself in the dark for the most part, because I don't want to see a frame of him in the movie. I don't want to see what his character's name is. Tell me he's somebody from the comics. Great, that's all I need to know. So I go in, and I didn't even expect him to be in that scene with Yondu. So then when he comes in, I'm like, whoa, okay,
hello,
leader of the Ravengers, great.
Yeah.
And then just that reveal about what he did to deserve his exile, and
then it's like, oh, it's tragic.
you really, that moment is where Yondu really becomes more of a character and less of this sort of funny anti-hero that he was in the first movie. And he was still, a great element to the first movie, but he wasn't really he wasn't really something like, oh yeah, I really liked Yondu. Like, he was a great part of Guardians 1.
He had an awesome whistle thing too. Like, that's all I remember.
He was just kind of a cool character.
He was cool. He was he was an anti-hero that was there in the first one, and I didn't expect them to do anything with him in the second one, except that again he was going to be there. But then I love that actor. I loved him in The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
He's an amazing actor.
Really,
and he has
I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. He has an ability to play like an anti-hero, even like Merle Dixon in The Walking Dead, who is somebody who definitely is has an element of very much evil and darkness inside of him, but he has an arc, and he has a family, and he has a redemption basically in the end. And both, I think, Merle Dixon and Yondu kind of portray that and go through that story, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah. And, I think if James Gunn wasn't directing this, you wouldn't have that depth with Yondu and Kraglin, who are, Michael Rooker is James Gunn's best friend. Kraglin is played by Sean Gunn,
Who
James
is his
Gunn's
brother.
brother. It's like he really looks out for his own.
He does.
And that's really cool to see that he's like taking care of his brother, giving him this. I mean, he didn't. I don't think he stood out, but he really. Like there's like potential left for him to be a much bigger character, and then of course Yondu, like James Gunn killed it with Yondu. Like he is like the one thing, maybe not the one thing, but he is one thing that really sticks out from Volume 2 that I just like is brilliantly done.
I agree. I enjoyed Kraglin too. I can't get Sean Gunn as Kirk from Gilmore Girls out of my head, and so he's just like this ridiculous small town character, and so it's like even when I see Kraglin on the screen, he's still Kirk from Gilmore Girls, which is a guilty pleasure.
I want to see in Volume 3 him mastering the arrow and just like we see him as one of the Guardians.
I love that. That was great when he just at the end.
Yeah, just the unlikely hero takes on the Ravengers or what's left of the Ravengers. That was dark. Like it just occurred to me like all of the Ravengers that were of Yondu's crew, they're all dead.
They are dead.
They're all dead. Like, either Taser Face, Scrotum Face, whatever his name is. Probably shouldn't say that, but Taser Face killed half of the ones that liked Yondu, wanted to stay on his side, and then, Yondu just kills them all because,
they're mutineers.
Mutineers, yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
But, I mean, so Kraglin is kind of the last living memory of Yondu. Well, besides, obviously, Peter. But
of course, but yeah, like really the one who stood by him like for almost the entirety of his life was Kraglin.
Loyal, yeah. So I'd be interested to see what he does.
I'd love to see what they did with Yondu, do that with Kraglin in Volume 3. Or even in Infinity War, I guess.
I'd like to see Kraglin's closer relationship with Kraglin and Star-Lord, because that might be interesting too.
That would be really cool.
They grew up together on the Ravager
Maybe
ship.
Brothers or something.
Yeah, that might be an interesting arc.
That would be cool. Really quick to tie back, Yondu's arc really ties back to the whole entirety of the arc, and everybody's arc ties back to the whole theme of family. Mm-hmm. Like Yondu, his family is the Ravengers, and they abandon him, and then that goes even further to when his actual crew abandons him, commits mutiny, and he's kind of left, literally broken in the head, and broken figuratively and literally, and it's really powerful when he's in that jail cell with Rocket, and he's just like, you really get like, oh man, this is like, he's nowhere else to go. He's hit rock bottom. Yeah. So then when you see him with the Guardians at the end, it's like, okay, now he's found family. Yeah. And then same with like Gamora and Nebula. Nebula's trying to find her place. She's just, hell-bent on, she's content on killing Gamora, killing Thanos, and then she, has a chance to actually sit down with Gamora, and they understand, like, oh, I just wanted a sister, but you always wanted to win. You always had to win. So then it makes Gamora more of the bad guy than really Nebula. Nebula was more of a victim of Gamora's brutality and Thanos' persistence on making these two, like...
Into weapons and warriors. Into weapons,
yeah. And so they really understand each other as not as enemies, but as victims of Thanos and his brutality.
Yeah, so props to Karen Gillan, especially in that scene where she's right before she leaves the Ravager ship.
And she is...
That was brilliant, too. Every time that Gamora won, he replaced a piece of me with machinery. Like, that was brilliantly delivered, and it had a huge, like, gut punch to the audience, I think.
You feel the threat of Thanos without even seeing him.
Exactly. And so, yeah, obviously Thanos is not in the movie, but he's there in his daughters, basically. Yeah. And their hatred of each other, or Nebula's hatred of Gamora, more or less. And another interesting thing that kind of occurred to me when I was watching it is, like, Gamora doesn't hate Nebula. Like, she doesn't feel the same need for revenge that Nebula feels. Yeah. And obviously that's because Gamora is the victor, right? And so she's not the victim of abuse. She's not the abuser either, but she walked away without a scratch, Yeah. And so
she feels just because she fought to survive, but she never really took the chance to really consider, like, what am I doing to Nebula? What am I doing to...
Yeah, she never had to play the big sister, and, like, you wouldn't think that, because obviously she cares about Nebula, and you saw that in the first one too. Like, she cares about Nebula, but she never actually had to sit down and say, I am your big sister, I protect you, or she never recognized Nebula as a victim. So you do kind of see Gamora in a different light, which is very intriguing.
Yeah, and Nebula, like you said, I think Karen Gillan is another underrated actress in this movie, and just in general, like she was great in Doctor Who, and it just was amazing how much I took a moment to like really look at her performance. And I was like, I don't see Karen Gillan or Amy Pond. I see the character. So that really just goes to show
Amy Pond all the way.
Her ability to really dive into this character and be, take away herself and, other characters she's played in the past and really become this new character.
And embrace things that are completely different. Like, Nebula has nothing in common with Amy Pond.
Yeah.
Like, those two characters are completely different.
That'd be a great, like, little short, just, like, put those two characters in a room.
Yeah, see, they'd be, like, absolutely polar opposites. But, so, kudos to Karen.
So then, all these nods to family are obviously go back to the main storyline, which is Star-Lord and Ego. And like I said before, we were hinting at it. Ego, I think, is, like, the second best villain in the MCU.
What would be the first best?
Loki.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Loki. I mean, there's really no argument about it. Loki is really because he has, I think, that family tie and
that brother thing.
That brother thing. I think it's because these villains have emotional connections to the characters, whether it's family or friendship. That's what makes them good. It's the fact that they sort of, they had a relationship that was good, and then somehow it got corrupted. And you never really have any reason to believe Ego is bad until the very end. I mean, they hinted at it subtly throughout the film, and I was kind of oblivious to that because my eyes were just set on the eye candy, the colors, because I love colors. So.
Yeah.
Colors, Guardians, yeah. But then once Ego starts revealing his plan, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's a bad guy. And then when he drops I
killed your mother.
I killed your mother. Like, I had to put that tumor in her head. I was just, what? You did what? And just connects it to the first movie and connects it to Star-Lord's, the reason for Star-Lord's pain. And, he thought he was... the way to fulfill this pain he felt, about not having a family or a father was finding his father. Then, lo and behold, he finds his father, and he's the one that killed his mother, and he's the reason for his unhappiness.
I am going to say that I saw the Kurt Russell killed Star-Lord's mom thing coming.
Oh, really?
I did, just because I didn't know that there was going to be any other villain to the film, so I kind of assumed that they were going to... Ego is not Star-Lord's father in the comics.
In the comics, no.
So because there was no other villain in the film, and they got an actor such as Kurt Russell, it was either going to be Sylvester Stallone as a villain or Kurt Russell. So just kind of going into that, I kind of hypothesized, and then they show him on Earth with his mom, and I was like, okay, so he's some big scary dude that. I did see that coming a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was still really, very brilliantly done and played out very well.
Yeah.
And I was okay to sit through until the reveal. Like, I didn't get bored because I predicted the end, like Interstellar. But this one really kept me captivated, especially because, I mean, you see Star-Lord having a father for the first time, which, like you said too, is it's family, and everybody wants to see family.
Yeah.
And like I completely agree. Like, that's why the Loki story is so compelling. Is you see them as kids and Thor. Growing up together, and they are brothers till the end, and then, well, plot twist, sorry, you're not my brother, and I'm this dark evil thing, so, like, that's a compelling story. And this is a compelling story, because it's a father and a son that Star-Lord's never had, but then turns out he does have a father. It's Yondu, and that was, again, brilliantly played out with Yondu's arc, and as we've already said.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's move on to, I think we've sort of beat the themes and story in the ground, but let's talk about the Awesome Mix Volume 2.
Totally awesome.
I love it. Some people say it's not as good as Volume 1. I
disagree.
I think it's great mainly because there's 4 of my favorite songs.
I would agree.
Even before I even knew they were in the soundtrack. Like, I love ELO, Mr. Blue Sky.
Oh yeah.
Lakeshore Drive, Southern Nights. Brandy. Those 4 songs were my favorite songs of 80s and 70s music before I even knew they were going to be in the movie. So to hear them in the movie was just
in context was just perfect. And then he started talking about what was the song that he was talking about? Like when Kurt Russell came in and was talking to Star-Lord about...
Oh, Brandy?
Yeah, that was Brandy. Okay. Yeah, that was Brandy. Duh.
It was, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that was like very gratifying too, just to, see the songs that you love in context
Exactly.
of this movie. And
yeah.
It's like a very long music video that's very fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're going to stop again. Yeah, and the way that Brandy sort of connects to the whole movie and explains Ego's intentions and his the story with his mom, I was like, that was stroke of brilliance.
It was.
And I think even the writer of that song went on and said that like that movie encompassed the theme of the song better than I could have ever described it. Something along those lines. Yeah, and just like
even Father and the Son at the end, like
that was
very heartbreaking.
I didn't have the chance to really think about my dad when I watched it the first time, but the second time I started thinking about my dad. Yeah, and that just like
in context again, you see the Yondu's funeral and everything like that.
Yeah, every song is really picked based on how it works in the scene. Like Mr. Blue Sky in the beginning was just
so much
perfect.
fun.
And being like ELO is one of my favorite bands of all time. My dad actually introduced me to ELO when I was a kid, so hearing one of those songs in Guardians of the Galaxy was
very
awesome, very gratifying, amazing. And then Lakeshore Drive was just a fun road trip song I'd listened to in the past, and hearing that in sort of like a road trippy like scene where they're on their way to Xandar to turn in Nebula. I was like, this is so cool, but it's all in space and.
It makes me so happy that aliens listen to these songs, and Rocket secretly loves Star-Lord's music.
Yeah, it's like
was a funny little element.
Got any mixtapes of Peter's or Quill's music?
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, which makes it even more just gut-wrenching when Ego crushes the Walkman.
Oh yeah.
And that line, just going back to Brandy, when he's like, "My life, my love, my lady is the sea," and Peter, "This is the sea," and he crushes the Walkman. It's like that. Perfect.
Yeah, that was very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and thanks to Kraglin for finding Peter more music for
Volume
3.
300 songs.
There's 300 songs.
I want to see it.
I want every single one.
Exactly, all 300 songs in Volume 3.
Yes.
I really do wonder how they're gonna deal with that, though. If they're going to actually give him a new Walkman or something, or if this is the Walkman now.
Player? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Star-Lord is handy enough with a wrench. He could probably make a Walkman.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because we actually don't know if he's going to go to Earth in Infinity War.
Or is Infinity War going to come to him? Who knows?
I would like the Guardians to go to Earth.
I would
and
too.
him have that
really
experience. But I don't think it's a set thing, so I don't want to get my hopes up. He's going to go to Earth. He's going to get another Walkman. He's going to know that. They made Transformers.
Discover eBay.
He's going to discover eBay, yeah. Or like Stark will make him a new Walkman that is indestructible or something.
Yeah. A vibranium. Like a vibranium Walkman.
Yeah, something along those lines. Really quick, we didn't talk about Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell was, my gosh. Like, I already believed like it's a stroke of genius to cast an 80s action hero like Kurt Russell in an 80s homage like science fiction film franchise. Yeah. I was like, that's perfect. Of course you'd cast Kurt Russell as, Star-Lord's dad. It just makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
And then just, because Kurt Russell is the most charming man in the world, you're immediately like, put under his spell like everybody else. Like, this is a cool guy. He's awesome. He's nice. He's sweet. He's just jolly old Father Christmas like father. But then it's like, nope.
Nope.
His name is literally the first nod that like he has a big ego, and he wants to just fulfill that ego by being everywhere and being everything.
Yeah.
And that life to him is just meaningless.
Malevolent God.
And he doesn't even really care about Peter. Like, of course, he wants Peter to help him fulfill that, but like Peter's going to die if he does it anyways.
And he was content to leave Peter a slave to the planet or himself for 1,000 years and just use him as battery, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it just means that like Peter was always sort of a product of
necessity. Almost.
Necessity, and not even of real love for
of course not. Yeah, and
Meredith Quill, his mother, which just makes the whole thing tragic. I just love how deep this movie gets, and how it doesn't forget the first movie, which is what a lot of sequels tend to do. Is like they typically forget
Yes.
anything that happened in the first movie and try and pull on those emotional strings. This
They try
movie,
to pull on the same emotional strings.
yeah, it's like
which
this
doesn't always
expands on those strings and like this is why things happen and this is how Peter's going to react to those things because of how he's, grown to be now.
work. Mhm.
Okay, I think we've talked too much about what we liked. Obviously, we loved the movie. I don't know if you have anything bad to say, but I got a couple of things, not a lot, but
the only really bad thing, I did predict the brain tumor. Like,
yeah,
that
you saw that coming.
I saw it coming, but it was done well enough that I was entertained.
Mm-hmm,
so it was okay.
For sure. Yeah, that David Hasselhoff cameo though.
That was great.
Was fun.
That was funny.
That was
I
fun.
laughed at that.
Because I knew he was I knew he was singing Guardians Inferno, the track at the end. Yeah. But I didn't know he was actually going to be in the movie. It's like, that'd be kind of cool if he was in the movie.
Yeah.
The couple of bad... I mean, one of them's not even really a bad thing. It's just one thing I've noticed, that this film has less action in it. There's not a ton of action scenes. And, I mean, there are a lot of great spectacle scenes. There's a lot of fun action in the movie, but I don't think there's nearly as many. But that is okay, at least for me.
It can be good and bad.
Yeah.
Because you trade out action scenes for the family moments that hit hard.
Exactly. And some people, I think bigger movie buffs are like, oh, but I wanted more action. It's like, but that's not...
Yeah, you don't have the epic space battles or...
Yeah.
You do have them skipping through 700 space jumps, which was...
Oh, that was...
funny.
So hilarious. Yeah, it's... And it's I guess it is a complaint, but I don't have a problem with it. I never took a step back and was like, this has less action. I don't like this at all. It's like I was thoroughly entertained through and through, and it was
I was too.
About the characters.
I appreciate a character-driven movie.
Yeah, exactly. And I think hats off to Marvel for not trying to do an action-heavy movie or not letting James Gunn do his thing, because it seems like Kevin Feige and James Gunn didn't have a ton of disagreements or arguments. He really let him just do what he wanted, which is great.
Obviously banking off of the success of Guardians 1.
Exactly. Another thing I didn't like, and honestly the movie's so jam-packed and so already flows really well, you can't really add to this. I would have liked to have seen more interaction with Peter and Yondu.
I would agree with that.
Or even Peter, Yondu, and Ego. Like him.
I think that was a missing scene. I
just
did think
a scene
about
or
that.
something, yeah. Because I mean, obviously, at the end when Yondu said, he may have been your father, but he wasn't your daddy. I'm glad you're my boy. I'm sorry I didn't do it right. And when he sacrificed himself.
But Peter literally doesn't see Yondu until Yondu is sacrificing himself, and so it would have been nice to either have a moment with Yondu beforehand, and I think that moment was substituted with Rocket.
Yeah.
Which, again, was brilliant. I love that, but...
Because they did have a moment where, he comes in the ship. You don't even know he's coming. It's like, Yondu, you're here? And then they have a little power, he's like, you met your dad, huh? And it's like, yeah. It's like, what'd you do? Well, he taught me how to make a ball. It's like, a ball. This is like, this kind of funny banter. I think that kind of compensates for it. But the Mary Poppins line, that was sort of a nice little thing. So they have interactions, but
not a deep, heartfelt thing that might have been nice, considering how Yondu's going to end up in a couple. But again, I mean, you're not always going to get that in real life either.
Exactly. So, and it feels, because Yondu gets such a large amount of screen time, because all their arcs sort of intersect as everybody realizes that the Guardians are a family and they accept new members like Mantis and Nebula and Yondu. Because of that, I think it's something that I can just be like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's something I would have liked to have seen, but it doesn't break the movie.
Yeah, exactly. It still worked, and I think it was substituted a little bit with Rocket, which was good. And I liked how that interaction, the one line that followed through was when Star-Lord told Rocket, I was small and I fit through, and I could squeeze through things or whatever, and then Yondu said the exact same thing. So that was a moment of kind of bringing Star-Lord into the conversation.
Yeah. And
bringing their relationship. That they were close.
For sure.
Even if it was a weird banter type relationship, they were close and they cared about each other.
Exactly. Even if it was just banter.
Yeah.
And then once again, none of these are really complaints. They're more of just things I would have liked to have seen more of. The Sovereign were kind of just
there.
And I actually, because of the trailers, I thought they were going to be the main villain. I thought like somehow Ego was going to like be a threat to the Sovereign. The Sovereign, we have to destroy this like abomination. It's a planet. It's a human. What is it? We have to destroy it.
Yeah.
And then the Guardians were defending Ego from the Sovereign. I thought that was the whole
plot.
The whole plot. But then plot twist.
Yeah.
The Ego and the Sovereign are the bad guys. But I mean, I did like this.
They were there and they added a ticking clock.
Yeah, they served their purpose. I guess
it's an interesting race.
Yeah.
Again, I love alien movies. I love Star Trek and that kind of thing. It had an element of Star Trek to it.
It did, yeah.
And they were. It was a civilization that we haven't seen before in the Marvel universe, and it was very Trek.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was kind of just there.
Right. So yeah, I guess let's do our overall consensus. So you want to start with like your overall thoughts?
I loved it. I mean, like the family aspects again were brilliant. I love the interactions between the characters, and the music. I mean, you can't beat that. But I think whatever gripes that we may or may not have, I think that the good definitely outweighs the bad. This is a great movie for me, and one of Marvel's best. I think Guardians, the first Guardians, was another one of Marvel's best. Like. These movies are really, really well done, and I love Chris Pratt. I have loved him since he was fat, and on Parks and Rec, like I love Chris Pratt, and he does brilliant in this movie, and he did brilliant in the first one, and I enjoy seeing it. So
cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna agree. I love this movie. I think it's better than the first one. Obviously, the first one is fantastic, but this one exceeds it in an emotional sense, which for me is more important, or at least raises more significance for me than just throwing more action scenes.
Yeah.
It honestly, if I had to point to, if someone asked me like, so what type of movies do you want to direct? I would point to this movie. Like, this is the perfect definition of like what a Vince Gilligan movie would potentially look like, because it's got great music that I love. It's got, I want my films to be like super colorful and vibrant like this one.
Yeah.
I love science fiction. I love action. And I love these emotional relationships that are developed in the film. And it just completely encompasses everything I want to do with film and directing and writing. And
I would completely agree. It's very, very well written. And I think James Gunn is a very clever and brilliant writer. The Scooby-Doo movies, I will point to those.
Yeah. Did he write those? Oh. Well, okay. I got to rewatch those, I guess.
Yeah, he directed... I believe he assisted... Like, he wrote a draft of the script. I'm not sure if he wrote the final script,
okay.
But I know he took a pass at a script.
I would have liked to have seen a James Gunn Scooby-Doo movie. That would have been cool.
Those movies are hilarious to me. I have a sick sense of humor, but...
Okay.
There you go.
Well, yeah, I guess my score, would be like, I gave Guardians 1 a 9 out of 10. I'd give this a 9.5 out of 10. That's probably the highest I'd go for any movie, unless it's like flawless like Logan, which I gave a 10 out of 10, but
Logan deserves 10 out of 10, let's be honest.
It deserves it, yeah, let's be honest. So, that's our Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 review. We obviously loved it. Let us know what you guys think in the comments, and gripes and thoughts and opinions you have on Guardians 2. Alright, before we go, today's shout out goes to the Unbox Boys on YouTube. They are a 3 or 2 guys. A guy and his son review toys. I'm a big toy collector, as you guys know, so I scour YouTube for toy reviews, and they came across my YouTube channel. I checked it out, and they just do really fun YouTube reviews. It's a guy and his son, and they have a great little banter sometimes. They're Christians as well, so as a fellow Christian, it's nice to see them encouraging the Word of God and stuff. Not that they need to be good, but, as a fellow Christian, I appreciate that. So, subscribe to their channel, give them a follow, give them a like, check out their videos, and support them. All right. Carly, thank you for being on the show. Hopefully
no problem.
Hopefully we can have you back in the near future.
Sure.
Do you have any... Pirates? Yeah, well, maybe we'll have you back for Pirates. Is there any, like, social media, Facebook, Twitter, do people want to follow you on or whatever?
I'm on Facebook.
Yeah.
Twitter, like I have
That's-
nothing. I don't use those very often.
Okay, that's all right.
I'm
I know some
lame.
people want to plug themselves, but
That's okay. I'm pretty lame. I just sit in my room and watch television. So.
that's okay.
That's
I
okay.
do too. You guys can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. All my social media links will be in the description below. And this weekend, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales is coming out. You should see that and not Baywatch, because Baywatch,
Lame.
looks terrible.
Totally lame.
I mean, I support, film productions, giving people jobs and stuff. Like, obviously, that's important, but this movie just looks
Are you kidding me? Go
terrible
Pirates.
through and through. Yes, support pirates. Make it another $1 billion pirates movie so we can get 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Please.
Please and thank you. All right, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can check out my short films, trailer reactions, and more episodes of the Vince Salerno podcast. We'll see you guys next week. God bless and peace out.